Well, hello YouTubers, Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, the sound you're hearing is the sound of my foundry furnace over there burning away. And as you can see by the paraphernalia I have spread out there, I am in the process of learning how to smelt stuff. And this is practice. This is just practice. You know, in the last video, I crushed up some gold ore I brought from some mines out west when I was out west on vacation, and panned out sulfides, a little bit of gold, some free copper and whatnot from a couple of different samples. And what I want to do is I want to smelt that stuff and see if I can get a little gold button out of it. Problem is, I don't have very much. I'll show you the samples I have. So I don't have very much material, so I want to get good at doing this before I actually smelt my samples. So I'll show you the samples I got, and I'll show you what I'm doing over here. I'll give you a look inside the furnace and tell you what's going on. And then once I get good at smelting, I will actually smelt the real samples and see what I get. Alright? Yeah, so in that last video, which I'll put a link to in the upper right here, check it out if you haven't seen it already, I brought back some ore samples from a couple of mines out west when I was out there on vacation with my wife. And I had two different samples, and I had only one rock of sample A, unfortunately. So I don't have very much, but this was from a historically very rich gold mine, and after I crushed it down into a fine powder and panned it out, I could see there was free gold and a lot of sulfides in there. Okay, so this is the after panning, this is what I've got left. Free gold and a lot of sulfides, a little bit of blonde quartz debris that I didn't pan out, but that's okay. Now sample B was quite a bit larger. I had a whole bag full of rocks from a quartz outcropping I found up in the mountains when I was rock hounding. So I brought back quite a bit of that. So I actually divided it up into two samples. So here's sample B, which is about 2/3 of the material. Now again, after panning this out, I had a lot of sulfides, some free copper, and what looked like maybe some tiny bits of flakes of gold, very tiny flakes of flour gold here and there in there. But I had so much of sample B that I decided to divide it up into two. This is about 2/3 of it here, and this is about 1/3 of it down here. So what I'm going to do is, once I get good with my smelting practice, first I'll start with sample B star here, because this is a smaller amount, and just see how that goes. And then this goes okay, I will do sample A and B and see if I can get little gold buttons out of them. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me show you how I'm practicing with my smelting, okay? Okay, before I go all in and use my precious samples of ore here, I just want to make sure I can actually make this work, okay? Because I've been having some trouble with it. So I got some Chapman Flux here. Okay, bought that. There's going to be links down in the description to all this stuff. So I got some Chapman Flux. I've got some fire assay crucibles. And I've got some lead here. So the way I'm practicing is I put about 10 grams of lead. I weigh about 10 grams of lead, put it in a fire assay crucible, put in 50 grams of Chapman Flux, just starting, you know, just experimenting. I may end up putting in more, and heating it up, giving it a few stirs with a hot rod. You know, I preheat the rod so everything doesn't freeze out on it. And then I pour you know, after all the bubbling's done and everything's smoothed out nice, I pour the contents of the assay crucible here into my cone mold, and I let it harden up. And my goal here is to get all my lead back in one bead at the bottom of the cone mold, okay? That's what I've been trying to do, what I'm practicing at. The problem I've been having up till now is the Chapman Flux seems to be really thick when it's liquid, and all the beads of lead are not consolidating into one. I got beads of lead all through the flux when it hardens. So I am working on fixing that. One way I'm doing it is I'm thinning it out a little bit with some extra soda ash, okay? Now there's soda ash in Chapman Flux, and they actually make a thinner especially for Chapman Flux, but I didn't have that. But I do have soda ash. You know, it took me a couple days for Amazon to deliver this, the thinner. So I'm experimenting with soda ash, so I had about 15 grams of soda ash to my 50-gram charge of Chapman Flux and 10 grams of lead, and we'll see if that helps. If I actually get all my lead back, and it's not, you know, in one bead at the bottom of the cone mold or at the top of the pyramid once the slag comes out. And we'll see if I get all my lead back in one bead and it's not scattered all through the flux. So that's the first problem I'm trying to solve. Okay, and I'm running a test in the furnace right now. I'll give you a look in the furnace. Okay, I really don't know how well that's showing up. I can't see the viewfinder very well out here in the sun, but we are up to temperature. We are bubbling pretty good. Now, one thing I've had to learn when I'm practicing my smelting, this takes practice. This takes practice. Don't let that boil over. Don't let that boil over, okay? So you got to be kind of Johnny on the spot when he gets to this stage. You got to be ready to kill the heat real quick or uncover the furnace just to cool it down quick so it doesn't boil over and you lose all your stuff down the side and then into the bottom of the furnace. So, yeah, that's something I have learned. But we're coming along. Sooner or later, all this bubbling will stop. It's kind of worse than usual because I added some more soda ash to it to try and thin out the flux. And I can see it's much thinner than it was before. It was thick and gloopy without it. So, once all this bubbling dies down and it lays down nice and smooth, I'll pull it out and I'll pour it in the cone mold down here and we'll see what we get. Okay? And I'll set up the camera and you can watch me doing that. Hopefully it won't be a Darwin Award event. Yeah, I've opened the vent hole as wide as it'll go, and I've turned the heat down some because it's getting really close to boiling over there. So we got to wait for this boiling to subside some, and I can turn the heat back up. Just checking to see it's not boiling too bad at the moment. It's settling down good. Got to keep an eye on it, man, because I've had several boilovers now, so I'm learning slowly. So any of you old hands at smelting out there, feel free to give me any kind of advice or constructive criticism down in the comments section below this video. I would appreciate any kind of good advice or constructive criticism, all right? Let me check it again. Yeah, the boiling is subsiding. That's good. Maybe it'll lay down nice here shortly and I can pour it. So, you know, I got my cone mold over there, big steel cone mold. One thing I'm a little worried about is that maybe I'm just not doing enough material, that it's not staying liquid in that metal cone mold long enough for all of the little beads of lead to consolidate when I pour it. So, yeah, maybe I need to get a graphite cone mold for these small quantities I'm doing. That's a possibility, but we'll see if thinning out the flux helps. Maybe that'll give it, you know, just that much extra time for the beads to consolidate before everything freezes solid. Okay? So that's my thought process. Again, feel free to give me advice or constructive criticism, because I'm pretty new at this. I'm making all the mistakes that I'm sure everybody else has made all throughout time, so hints and shortcuts would be helpful. Okay, I'm going to give this stuff a bit of a stir. I'm preheating my stir rod in front of the burner there, so stuff doesn't freeze out on it. Seems pretty liquid. It's really not bubbling very much at all right now. So it's probably about ready to pour. I think I'm going to let it go for a little while longer, maybe turn the heat up, get it good and hot before I pour it, since it's not bubbling anymore. Make it as liquid as I can. Put the spurs to her. That should get it good and hot. Whew, it's high noon, summertime in Florida, humid as heck, and I got the foundry furnace going. Wow, is it hot over here. Let me take a quick peek. That's looking pretty good. The bubbling is basically stopped. It's just sort of laid down a nice smooth liquid. It's been running on higher heat for a while now. It's about as hot as I can get it, I think. So I think I'm going to go ahead and gear up and pull it out and pour it. I'll try and pull it out and pour it just as quick as I can so it doesn't have a chance to cool down. And we'll see how it goes. Okay, here we go. Wish me luck. I don't know what's left in there. There's something in there stuck to the side. Haven't seen that before. So, well, we'll see how this goes. I'm just going to let that sit for now. After it's had a chance to harden up a little bit, I'll put it in front of my big fan so it'll cool down enough, because I know it's got to be cool to the touch on the bottom of the cone down here, so I'll know that the lead's solidified. If it's still hot, the lead could be liquid. I don't want to dump it over before then. Another thing I'm going to do, yeah, the slag is still solidifying. Okay, so it's taking longer to solidify after I put some of that soda ash in it, so that's good. Maybe the lead will consolidate. Alright, because it was solidifying real quick after I poured it before. So that's good. I'm going to put this over it, because once that slag starts cooling, it's going to start cracking, and pieces will fly off really fast. And it's kind of dangerous. So that'll catch all the pieces. It'll also catch all the pieces so that I can look at them and see if they've got lead beads in them. Okay? Or if all the lead's up in the prill at the top of the cone. We'll see. So that's got to cool for a while. Once it cools down enough and the slag stops disintegrating, I'll pick it up and put it in front of the fan to get it cool enough to actually tip it over and look at what we got. Okay, I'm hearing a lot of tink, tink, tink coming from up under there. It sounds like the slag is starting to disintegrate and pieces are popping out and flying up and hitting the bottom of the bowl there. So just gonna let that cool a little more out there, then I'll move it in front of the fan over here. In the meantime, let's talk about my rationale for using Chapman Flux. And anybody out there with experience doing this can tell me if I'm doing it right or if I'm all wet. Okay, let me move the camera and we'll talk about it. Okay, my rationale for using Chapman Flux is, as I understand it, this is an oxidizing flux because it contains manganese dioxide, okay? Now, my concentrates here, oh, it's tinking big over there. Okay, my concentrates here contain a lot of sulfides. Now I'm going to roast these before smelting them, and hopefully convert those sulfides into oxides. This stuff's sitting here rusting away as we speak, and getting darker by the day. It looks like the sulfides are roasting themselves at room temperature now that they're exposed to oxygen. But I'm going to roast them anyway, just to make sure I get, you know, as much of these sulfides converted to oxides as I can. All right, then they should dissolve in the flux, I'm thinking. I'll use a little bit of lead as a collector metal, and hopefully we'll collect any gold, silver, copper in here in the lead button, and then I'll Cupel the button, and we should wind up with a little bead of precious metals, okay? So that's my thought. And the reason I want to use an oxidizing flux is just in case my roast isn't perfect and I don't get all these sulfides converted to oxides. You know, if there's a little bit of sulfide left in here, I'm thinking that the manganese dioxide in here should take care of that. If I'm wrong on that, somebody leave a comment, let me know. I've thought about maybe adding a little sodium or potassium nitrate to the flux just to make sure. But I think the manganese dioxide in here should do the job. Okay, so that's my rationale for using Chapman flux, and I'm going to use a little bit of lead as a collector metal, and we'll see how it goes. If I can get this working, where the lead all collects as one bead at the bottom of the cone mold and isn't distributed as droplets all through the slag. So practice, 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 like the old joke. You know, you're walking down the street, you ask a guy, hey, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? And his answer is, son, practice, practice, practice. Okay, so let's see what's going on over here. Okay, it's been a little while. Let's see what we got going on in here. Oh yeah, oh, it's still snapping. The slag is definitely breaking up. Let me zoom in on that for you. We basically formed here as a glass, and as a glass worker I understand glass. This glass was cooled way too quickly, wasn't annealed. It's got a lot of internal stresses, so it's just breaking up into little pieces from those internal stresses. That's what's going on with the slag here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in front of my big fan, which is kind of keeping me coolish out here in this Florida summer heat. And we'll let this cool down to where it's cool enough to touch on the bottom where the lead ought to be. And then we can dump it out and see what we've got. Hopefully an improvement. I mean, the slag took longer to solidify than it was before I put the soda ash in it. So I'm hoping all of the lead had a chance to agglomerate in the bottom in a single bead. I guess we'll see. Otherwise, back to the drawing board. Getting in a little Cupelling practice too. Gotta master this as well. Almost gone. We'll see what's left after the last of the lead's gone. So while we're waiting on the cone mode to cool down, I thought I'd show you that I've been practicing my Cupelling too. Okay, because I'm going to have to do that after I get the samples of gold ore smelted. I'm going to have to Cupel down the lead beads I get and get any precious metal buttons left behind. So I've been practicing my Cupelling. I bought some little cupels, some bone ash cupels, and I've been practicing that. And according to my reading, most lead is contaminated with silver. And so the lead I'm using is just random lead I've picked up over the years. You know, flashing from around roof vents, dive weights, plumbers, lead, whatever. You know, whenever I see a piece of lead, I collect it because I use it for counterweights in my telescope building. But also, you know, now I've got a lot of lead I can use for smelting and Cupelling. And I read that, you know, most lead is contaminated with silver. So I Cupelled down a 15-gram sample of the lead I'm using. And look what I got there. I got a little tiny bead, probably mostly silver, there that's left over in the Cupel after doing that 15 grams of lead. So this is a good test. So I'll know that if I Cupel down the samples I've got of ore, and I don't get beads substantially larger than this, then I'll know that there is really no recoverable precious metals in them. The beads are going to have to be quite a bit bigger than this for me to know that I've got precious metals in there, and it's worth continuing with those samples. Okay, so this was an important test, and I think anybody else out there working with smelting and cupelling using lead probably should do this test too, and just see how much silver contamination there is in their lead, so they don't think that they're getting something out of their samples when they're not. Okay? And apparently we've got a little while longer to wait because I still hear it tinging back there. Okay. Alright, this has been sitting in front of the fan for quite a while. Oh yeah, pretty much room temperature. Let's see what we got here. That's the top of the pyramid. That might be the top of the pyramid. Not really see it. I'm not really seeing any beads of lead in this slag anymore. Not obvious ones anyway. That's good. Well, there's a bead of lead right there. There's one bead. But certainly it's better. It's an improvement. Because before I was seeing lead all over the place. Yeah, there's the lead button right there. So most of the lead is consolidated into here. So that's an improvement. Okay. So what I might do is do some more practicing. Maybe I'll add even a little bit more of the soda ash. Maybe I'll go to 20 grams from 15 and see if that helps, because we've got almost all the lead in the main bead up here. Just a little bit left in there. So I think I'll do some more practicing and just see if I can get it even better. Okay, so here's the next practice one. I'm reusing the same fire clay crucible. I've used this for quite a few tests so far now. I check it carefully for cracks before I do a run, but once I start doing the real ore, I will switch to a new fire clay crucible, because I know these don't last long and I've had them crack on me during my practicing. So that's annoying when they crack and everything runs out into the bottom of the furnace. So I got my 10 grams of lead in there. I've got 15 grams of soda ash in here this time, and 50 grams of Chapman Flux, and we'll try it again and see if we manage to collect all the lead this time. We were close last time. I think if I thin it out a little bit more, it should work. So let me get this in the furnace and we'll go one more time. Okay, we're back at it. Thunderstorms rolled in yesterday quickly and shut me down. So doing the other test now with 20 grams of soda ash mixed in. So I'm going to have to watch it real carefully because it's going to want to boil over. One thing I've learned with my practicing here is not to fill those fire clay assay crucibles more than half full, or you'll almost certainly have a boil over. It's hard enough to keep them from boiling over when they're only filled up half full or less. So I have learned that lesson. So we're just starting to get warm. These are just starting to melt in there, but I'll have to keep a close eye on it. And we'll see how this test goes. Preheating the cone mold. I'll make sure there's no moisture in it before I dump this hot lava in it. It looks like it's just about ready. The boiling has subsided a lot. It's starting to lay down. Yep, just about ready. Okay, I think we're ready to go. The liquid has a nice glassy smooth surface. It's not bubbling at all anymore. So we'll try this one more time. Oh yeah, it's staying molten for quite a while there. So hopefully all the little droplets of lead will make it to the bottom and consolidate. One big frill down there. I put the fire clay crucible back in the furnace while it's still hot so it can cool down slower. Less likely to crack that way from thermal stress. Okay, so just like before, I'm going to let this cool down slowly. Right here where it's sitting. Yeah, it's taking forever for it to skin over with solidification. So yeah, hopefully all those droplets of lead in there are consolidating. All right, let me get my stainless steel bowl to put over it just like before. We'll let it sit there for a while, then I'll put it in front of the fan. Then once it's down to about room temp, we'll dump it out. See what we got. Alrighty, this has had plenty of time to cool off. Oh yeah, cool to the touch. See what we got here. Top of the pyramid. There's a little blob of lead, so I'm still not there. Oh wow. Yeah, this glass is a little sharp. I'm bloody. Should be wearing gloves. There it is. There's the top of the pyramid. There's the bead of lead. So I saw at least one loose bead in there. Yeah, this stuff is glass. It's sharp. Alright, let me weigh up this bead and see just how much lead we lost. I saw one bead in there, so there is some lost lead. Okay, so 8.69, it's bouncing around a little bit, 8.69, 8.7, so we lost about 1.3 grams of lead. So still don't have it all collecting into a single bead, but we're getting closer. So I think I'm going to keep practicing until I can reliably get the lead, pretty much all of it, into a single bead. Doing much better than when I started out. I didn't start filming initially, but those initial experiments I did were pretty bad, with lots of lead scattered all through the slag, so we're definitely getting better. So I'm going to do some more experimenting and see if I can do a little bit better than this, although it's a vast improvement. Okay, so I've been busting up the slag looking for more beads of lead in it, and I can't find any more. Just the one little bead, and it's so small I can't really even measure the weight on it. So that bead of lead is not where my 1.3 grams of lead went. I'm thinking, since I'm using an oxidizing flux, it's possible that it may have oxidized some of the lead to a lead oxide or litharge, and that's just incorporated into the slag. So we may be there. Maybe I don't need to do any more practicing. Maybe I'm about ready to try my hand at actual smelting some gold ore. So I'm thinking we'll try that in the next video. It's just too darn hot to fire this thing up again today. No, too hot, too humid. I'm going to wait for a cooler morning and come out here, and first thing before it gets too stinking hot, we'll smelt some gold ore and see what we get. So that'll be in the next video. Alright, well, thanks for watching this one. I hope you found it interesting, educational, informative, inspirational, whatever. Give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see my future videos. There'll be, of course, more smelting videos coming, more gold recovery videos coming, rock hounding, whatever you can name it, it's all coming. Check out my second channel, Electric Geek 64. Good stuff going on there. I'm actually filming some new content for it in between segments of this one. And subscribe and press the little bell icon in both places that YouTube wants you to press to be notified when new videos come out. As a subscriber, you will be notified when new videos are released. And thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.